Welcome back, people. We're here again talking about some New World. But today we've got a continuation on a previous topic we discussed a while back revolving around the possibility of mounts in the New World MMO. There's actually been very little mention about them other than an article I've been meaning to come back to but kept forgetting to. Around the time we were given access to the Reekwater preview event, several different media groups were also given interviews with Amazon Game Studios, and a few of them had spoken directly to Scott Lane. During this interview from a few different media groups, they asked the question if mounts were on the table for the future or if they're strongly against that. Some of you may also remember this was a question brought up during the interview with Asmongold where they asked Michael Willett a similar thing. Apart from that, this has also been a serious hot topic in the community for a very long time, and I think we may have just gotten our answer. In response to that question, Scott Lane says that right now the world isn't the size that warrants mounts. When they do get there with a live game, that's going to happen at some point. They'll add mounts when they feel the players will benefit from them and they can do it in a really cool way that works for them. Now I want to tackle all parts of this because it's very important. The first part is something we talked about during my first video related to mounts too. I felt like if we had the choice of waiting for them to put in mounts as soon as possible, or focus on expanding the world first so that when we get there we'd have a bigger area to explore, I said that I prefer the latter. So I do agree with Scott's statement that although they would be great to have, maybe it's good that they want to wait until they can expand the world some more. A perfect time for that would be after they open up a big zone, like one that would take you quite a bit of time to walk across vertically or horizontally. So the next thing he says is when we do get there with the live game, that's going to happen at some point. Now beforehand, mounts were up in the air in terms of if we would get them or not, but that response sounds like more of a guarantee of that feature. But still, player feedback will probably play a big role in this, and just about everything is subject to change. So if the overwhelming majority says that they don't or do want it, I'm sure that'll have an effect on the outcome. I tried to get confirmation from AGS about this, but at this time they're not able to confirm or deny it. So right now we only have this article to go off of. Past that, there is another question about an alternative to mounts, but Scott Lane says they aren't in the immediate plans. Specifically the idea around donkeys to carry our stuff to settlements instead of mounts. To this idea, he says that they've kicked around the idea of donkeys or wagons or wheelbarrows, but there's already a lot of fast travel in the game. You can set a recall point to a settlement, and once you visit one, you can fast travel to other settlements you've been to before. Also, this isn't included, but you can suicide your character and respawn at a tent or back at town, and fast travel to your housing locations whenever you want. So it is true. We do get quite a few features in that regard, even with the life staff being nerfed, but he also says they're always exploring ways to improve that system. Also, an idea that just popped into my head about this is how another game handles its item transportation system. Now in New World, I think if you did have the ability to transfer your items from place to place on the fly, it would kind of defeat the purpose of wanting to have isolated markets/economies in each area. But what you could do, and this might sound kind of funny at first, is have caravan NPCs spawn and begin traveling to whatever destination you set. But, depending on how many items you're transferring, have NPC bandits spawn on the road at certain milestones along the way. That'll incentivize players to defend their own caravans, and we can party with other players to help defend these caravans. It would also help with making the roads and overall the world itself feel more alive with traveling NPCs riding around. This dials back to the suggestion we talked about a long time ago about how even if NPCs weren't interacting with you, it would be nice to have them wandering throughout the cities and maybe even fighting in the outskirts to make New World feel more like a living, breathing world. But that's something I'm sure we can talk more about later down the line. The last few questions of the article is something I also really want to touch on. Starting with how they are paying attention to our feedback about the questing, and that they're exploring ways to add a lot more quest types, quest varieties, and even visual storytelling. This is something I talked about too, because even if you have a large portion of your player base that likes to skip through quest dialogue and cinematics and such, there's always going to be those that will appreciate more detail being added to the lore and storytelling surrounding your game. Sometimes those can end up being some of the most dedicated players you'll ever have, and eventually, more and more people will start to notice it and enjoy it. They've already proven to us that they can do a very solid job at designing cinematics throughout the character creation and tutorial of the game. Continuing to develop that even further into things like the faction missions and beyond is something that I can only see as a benefit rather than a hindrance, and this is with or without voice acting involved. It would be really nice to have, honestly, especially being a great substitute for trying to gather and read all these lore pages, but under the current circumstances I would imagine it would be harder to accomplish on a massive scale. The cinematic storytelling on its own might just be enough spice to hold the game over. I also noticed they asked about dungeons, which for Amazon Game Studios still seems to be in the planning phase. but achievements is something they apparently are considering, and I have to reiterate that I really hope they do implement them. We've talked about the benefits of an achievement system before, and it applies not only to hardcore players, but casual players, gatherers, and crafters as well. It's something that I think could contribute to the longevity of the game, alongside a leaderboard and reward system if that's something the community wants. Either way, that's all the details we got from the article, so make sure to stay tuned if anything else pops up. Till then, I'd love to know your thoughts about the possible confirmation of a mount system, and more importantly, what you think about some of the ideas they could implement to fit New World and its vision. Thanks again as always for watching, happy holidays to all of you at home, and have a wonderful night or day. Farewell.